Welcome to the Burgundy Gold Knuckleheads podcast. As always, coming off of a win with a little bit bigger smile. Reggie, we're 10-5.
We are, excuse me, we are 10-5, man. We are 10-5. And let me just say this, man. We stole Christmas. We stole Christmas from the Eagles fans. Okay. And in honor of the Eagles fans, in honor of Christmas, in honor of the Grinch, you pick one, A, B, or C. I'm wearing my green skins hat. So for y'all
Yeah.
that are just listening, if you're just streaming and you're listening and you're not watching on YouTube, your boy's sporting his usual all green, money green, Grinch colored, Merry Christmas, Philadelphia Eagle colored, Washington Redskins hats. And this is in honor of today's victory, man. You know, victory, victory once again. And the boys, the good guys, are 10-5.
Yeah, man. It was a win that I'm gonna say a lot of the game I thought we were gonna fall short on for a good bit of the game. Even when things were going well, I was happy it was going well, but I'm like, I'm not getting too happy. And we can go over some of the stats and everything, but as you go over some of these stats, if I told you some of these stats before the game even started, you would be
Uh-huh.
like, we lost by 20, 30, 40 points, right?
We kind of
Um,
were almost we were at some point.
like I said, there were moments where we thought that's where we were headed. But man, they stayed focused. They fought and they fought and they fought, and this is where you teams can turn it off or turn on. Not turn off, turn on like I'm going to play well now and not well now, but it's teams will uh basically we lost this game. We're we're going to keep playing, but we're moving on. We're already looking next week towards the Falcons, right? Um and to the coaching staff's credit, to the players' credit, uh man, they fought the entire game. It wasn't pretty at times. It was downright ugly at times, but they kept on fighting, man. They kept on fighting.
well, well, we talked about it about how in years past we lose this game. Even if we make a comeback, we still come up short in years
Right.
past. And there's been a few games this season that has attributed to this 10-win season that that we've come out on the positive end or on the right side of these types of games. I mean, we're going to get into it. You do 5 turnovers, and we're trying to give the game away. And Philadelphia, I mean, they had something to play for, right?
Right.
The Eagles weren't just showing up to Washington and just coming in and just playing to kind of get this game over. They had something to play for. So Washington battled, and to your point, man, they battled and they battled hard. And so we have something to be happy about. You and I talked off air about how we were going to approach the podcast. And I mentioned about, um, I was going to give some good and bad, just kind of give some honest feedback on the team. But, I got on social media and there's a lot of excitement from fans. And there's also a lot of grief that our fans had to put up with after the week 11 game. And the Eagle fans were celebrating the fact that they beat us. It didn't matter that it was a short week. It didn't matter that we had some injuries. It didn't matter that Jayden Daniels was trying to come back from the bruised ribs. None of that mattered.
Right.
All that mattered was Saquon went off on us and they beat us, got the win, and we're still not ready, right? That was kind of the theme of this whole deal. But today on social media, after today's loss, the theme by Eagles fans was you guys are celebrating like it's your Super Bowl and that you guys beat our backup. Congratulations, you beat Kenny Pickett. Congratulations, you beat our backup, or you barely even beat our backup. And it's funny though, but had we lost that game, you know what they would be trolling us with on social media? You guys ain't ready. You guys couldn't even beat our backup.
Right.
You guys couldn't even beat Kenny Pickett. You can't have it both ways, though. You can't say, well, you would have lost to Kenny Pickett, but then we beat Kenny Pickett. Well, you just beat Kenny Pickett. Because here's the thing. The last time I checked, the Philly had the number 1 defense. And before the game, they put up all of the firsts. The points per game, yards per game, all of that stuff. Kenny Pickett doesn't play defense. Jayden Daniels in the Washington offense, despite all the troubles that we had, put up 36 points on that Eagles defense. Now, if you want to say we beat Kenny Pickett, well, Kenny Pickett put up, I know they put up 12 points in the second half. They had 21 at the half. So maybe he accounted for, 7 and 12, 19. So he accounted for 19 points. Because you had 14, I think, by the time Jalen Hurts got injured. Or it was 7, whatever it was. But either way.
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, a couple things, right? When we went into this game, we talked about Washington defense struggling in the fourth quarter, and we gave up 4 field goals in the second half. That's it, right? 2 field goals in the third, 2 field goals in the fourth. The last touchdown that they got was basically handed to them from the refs. 2 horrible. That drive, I think, was 69 yards, roughly. I might be off by a yard or 2, but like 61 of those yards were off of 2 horrible pass interference calls, right? They drove the ball 7 yards in reality because the refs gave it to them for that.
Right. That was the holding of the shoulder pads by AJ Brown.
Yeah. When Brown was stiff arming and holding his the front of his shoulder pads, and the ref is looking right there. The ref is running with them, has basically the right angle. I have no idea how that was called on Lattimore and not Brown. The offensive wide receivers in this league, it is so rare, no matter how much they push off, knock hands down, do whatever, they never get called for offensive pass interference.
Right.
And to your point, Washington hung up 22 points in the fourth quarter
against the number 1 ranked
22 points
top ranked defense
on the top ranked defense. And when Hurts was in, he wasn't doing anything with his arm. In a quarter and a half, they scored, but that was on Barkley's legs. That wasn't on Hurts. Hurts, he ran a few times, but he was 1 for 4 for 11 yards.
Right.
Nobody was scared of his arm. Not in this game. Not from what he was doing. I'm glad he wasn't running, but he was just another running back at that point of the game. And with that, to throw a couple stats out there also, Barkley had around 110 yards in the first half. He finished the day with 100.
First quarter. He had 109 yards in the first quarter. I don't know what his halftime rushing numbers were, but I know he had 109 yards in the first quarter.
Okay, so he ended with 150.
That's right.
Right? So he only had 40 more yards the whole rest of the game. And I know in the third or early fourth quarter, he busted one of those for about 12 yards, about 10 or 12 yards. So after the first quarter, when he had his big runs there, and you take away that 12-yard run, he didn't do hardly anything. Now, Washington was able to stack the line with Hurts not being there. And look, good teams take advantage of your injuries, your mismatches on personnel.
Of course.
It happens to Washington when Austin Eckler, he's not there. Noah Brown, he's not there. Nobody on the defense is feeling sorry for our offense. We have a center that was out a week or two ago. Man, they were just blowing up through the middle.
That's right. Nobody cared.
They didn't put their backups in for that play. So, I don't want to hear it, man. If we meet again in the playoffs and Hertz is healthy, they'll be a little bit stronger. But guess what? If Lattimore, hopefully Lattimore is tweaked his hamstring, but Jonathan Allen is going to be back. Austin Eckler is going to be back. Like I said, Lattimore will be there. We've got people that will be coming back in the next couple weeks as well. That's life in the NFL. It really
It is.
is.
It is, and it sucks, and no one's gonna feel sorry for you. And speaking of feeling sorry, we've been doing this podcast for a little bit of time, and we don't know all of our listeners, and that's okay. But we appreciate all of them, regardless of who they are and where they're from. But we have one listener by the name of James that's out in the UK. I think those guys are in England, and we're going to give a special shout out to James because first of all, James is a listener. Second, James is a listener who's a Commanders fan.
Right.
James told me that he has a couple of friends, a couple knuckleheads of his own, and they're Eagles fans. And they're by the name of Alan and John. We're going to specifically call out Alan and John. And Alan and John, at the end of the day, you guys need to understand you lost. You guys have been giving my boy James, you've been giving James a hard time since week 11. I'm pretty sure you didn't want to hear any excuses that James made about what happened during that game. It was a short week. We had this and all those kind of things. Those things were all relevant, but you probably didn't want to hear it. Well, guess what, fellas? James don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. Y'all lost. It doesn't matter. Kenny Pickett, you guys chose Kenny Pickett. Not our fault. It's not our fault. It's not our fault that Jalen Hurts got a concussion. I don't wish anything bad, but he wasn't there. But again, as I said earlier, Kenny Pickett didn't play defense. Your defense is the one that allowed Washington offense to put up 22 points in the fourth quarter. That's more points than we had the entire first half. The boys put 22 points. So that's the reason you guys lost 36-33. Kenny Pickett at least put up another 19 points for you. But again, Alan and John, just hush it. Leave our guy James alone, man. Let him celebrate this week. He earned it. He deserves it. And shout out.
Look, I'll piggyback on that for a second. Philly fans are one of the biggest criers, right? They will jump up in your face in a heartbeat when they're winning, right?
Yep.
You see that that's a stadium that you don't want to go to because they can't just win or lose a game. The fans got to get physical. They got to get as nasty as they can, and they turn around and cry a nasty cry after they lose. I mean, just think. Philly had they lost the game when their running back, to your point, had 150 yards rushing and they had 5 turnovers and you still lost the game. You still couldn't get it done.
That's right.
You show me another team that gets 5 turnovers to their benefit and loses the game. That is extremely rare. I'm sure it's going to come out at some point. Where the odds are or how often that happens, but it is rare. It is rare.
Absolutely. And to your point, right? They got 5 turnovers. The refs was helping them, right, with some of those ticky-tack calls. You still had your, as they called it on the broadcast, you got 2 of the best tackles in the league. So you still had your offensive line intact. You still had your running game, and yet you still lost the game. But here's the thing, man. Philly came to D.C. this week on a 10-game win streak. And once again, Washington is a streak buster, right? I think this is probably the 3rd year in a row that we stopped some undefeated season or some streak. Just like last year, I think we stopped Philly's big-time run where they were on some long win streak. We stopped them. And so they came to D.C. People probably not thinking about it. If they had won the game, they secured the division. So they had some T-shirt. It was a hat and T-shirt game for those guys. Nah, put the box cut away, homie.
Keep them in the box.
Right, put the box cut away. We don't need to break the seal and then just take it all the way back to Philly. Go back up 95 or whatever that highway is and go back to Philly. Get it next week, right? So we're not trying to hear that, man. So you guys need to leave James alone. Let my man
Yeah.
James do his celebration, man. Keep it moving.
Yeah, and there was a number of Philly fans there in the at the stadium, and I hope they all got home safely. But if a couple of them had flat tires on the way home, it wouldn't have bothered me one bit. And it'd been nice if it had been raining on top of that. Um, with Washington winning, Washington, like I said at the top of the podcast here, went to 10-5. At the same time, from a wild card perspective, the team that was closest to us was Seattle Seahawks. They lost today to the Vikings, and so with 2 games to go, Washington has a 2-game lead on that wild card. Things have to and the statisticians, however they put the numbers together, Washington has a 91% chance at this moment of making the playoffs at this point. Um, and obviously, we want them to continue to win and keep their destiny in their own hands. But the loss by the Seahawks definitely helped that situation. Um, it was a go
Hang
ahead.
on. One more thing that's tied to that is the win by Washington today obviously delayed the Eagles winning the division, but it also eliminated the Cowboys from playoffs. So they're playing. They're playing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So them boys are playing the Tampa Bay Bucks in Sunday night's game, and they're just playing for paychecks at this point. They're just getting paid to go play, playing for free.
Without a doubt.
Because there's no ramification to tonight's game. The only thing that happens here is Tampa is still trying to stave off the Atlanta Falcons for the division title.
Right.
But the Cowboys are playing for nothing. Oh God, I love it.
Just
I love it, man. Them boys got nothing to play for, man. They playing for pride. Right? They got to play 3 more games this year just for pride. Nothing else. There's nothing
else.
For.
Nothing else. Yeah. Jerry Jones, how many pictures are we going to see him on each game with him up there, being happy or more of a grumbling face because Cowboys aren't very good this year.
Oh my God, I love it.
But anyway, that is what it is. Jayden, we talked about a couple of positives, a couple of negatives here. One of the positives is, man, Jayden Daniels. There's times where Jayden Daniels just needs to have a cape hanging off the back of his jersey, a burgundy and gold cape. Because without in this game, we wouldn't have come back without him.
I agree.
He was 24 for 39, 258 yards. Wasn't the greatest on some. I mean, he had some that he threw away and everything. But when it was crunch time, man, he just dialed it in and was putting it on the money. He had 9 rushes for 81 yards. Juking guys here and there.
He was the
almost
team's
broke
lead.
that one for a touchdown if he wasn't just basically ankle tackled after he was shaking and baking 4 or 5 guys along the way.
He was the team's leading rusher, by the way, which is not a good thing.
I don't disagree. But
the
running backs today had 15 carries for 32 yards. He had 9 rushes for 81 yards. Now, granted, when he takes off running, there's normally a hole that he sees, and that's why he takes off running. So he's got a head start on the first 5 yards that the running backs. When you're running between tackles, sometimes there's no hole and you don't pick up any yards. But
absolutely, I mean, and that feeds the narrative to the point that you're making, in that he won this game for us, and the magic of Jayden Daniels is why we won this game. But again, I think you and I and probably a few others feel like you can't have Jayden Daniels being your leading rusher, right? You need to have the other guys doing that. That's what they get paid to do. And right. Jayden's running ability should be icing on the cake. I don't know that I ever want him to be our leading rusher.
No, I agree. I agree. And whatever Washington did this game from an offensive perspective, basically the last 3 quarters, um, and definitely the fourth quarter, they made whatever adjustments it was. They only gave up 1 sack today. Last week, I think a little bit of that was on the offensive line, but part of it was, I think, on Jayden. He kept on waiting or deciding to try to run when there wasn't anything to run. When he gave up 8 sacks last week, so only 1 sack today. And it just things started clicking. The adjustments we made in the second half, offensively and defensively, brought us. It was clawing up a mountain. And even when we got within, was it 6 points, 5 or 6 points, whatever it was before the last touchdown, I just wasn't sure. I was happy, but I wasn't cheering like other people at the bar were. And then when we stopped him and we're like, okay, we got basically, I think it was like a minute and 45 seconds, a minute and 50 seconds, and a timeout. I'm like, we may end up pulling this out. I was excited. I was, you and I were standing up at that point.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I hear you, man. It was one of those things, man. Again, I want to try to keep a lot of this positive, because at the end of the day, we won the game. And there's some things that Jayden did, but we talked about in the last podcast that some concerns that we had was how our defense was last in the fourth quarter and how our offense seems to sputter in the second half.
Right.
And today was one of those where the defense made some stops that they needed to make against not just Kenny Pickett, but also against their running game. We lost Marshawn Lattimore at some point, and so we had BSJ in the game. And the Eagles attacked him a little bit. They probably should have kept going to that side if they were smart, but they didn't. And but we started to see AJ Brown get loose a little bit. There was the defensive line and linebackers started to corral Saquon Barkley. So the defense stepped up in the second half and the fourth quarter, which is something they had not been doing previously. The offense continued to fire, putting up 22 points in the fourth quarter alone, which again is something that they hadn't been doing. So we talked about that being a concern, and this week it was a positive, and so we got to give them credit for that. But on the note of things being positive, I'm going to cheat a little bit and look at some notes here.
Okay.
But this has been a season of firsts, Ken. I'm going to rattle off 2 or 3 things here. Season of firsts. Terry McLaurin today secured 1,000 yards receiving, and this is now the 5th straight season of over 1,000 yards receiving, and he's first in the team history to do that. Season of first. Dan Quinn, this win today, Dan Quinn's the first coach in team history, and all the coaches Washington had, and we've had some bad ones, a few good ones, certainly some bad ones, but he's the first one in team history to get double-digit wins in his first season. Okay, so he got game ball today. So if you guys haven't seen that on social media, the team posted it. Terry came out and spoke, gave the game ball to Dan Quinn for being the first to do so. Yeah. And then today, Jayden is the first rookie in the history of the NFL to throw 5 touchdowns in a single game. First rookie, but to make it even bigger, he's only the 6th quarterback in the league history to do it. So first as a rookie, 6th overall in the history of the league. So today was a big day, man, for him to, going back to the point that you're making about we would not have won this game without Jayden Daniels. And so I'll ask you can speak on any of those first, but I'll ask you, do you think today's game secured him as Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Short answer to that is yes. I mean, I know that, I'm not going to, I don't know who he's truly competing against at this point.
Bo Nix,
no,
and
no. That's while the team is doing well, Bo Nix is doing very average. He's managing.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I'm not saying that I agree with you. I'm just telling you who he's competing with. Bo Nix and Brock Bowers, the tight end in Las Vegas.
Yep.
And I don't know anybody else, but those certainly were the or the three.
Right, right. And nobody's mentioning Caleb Williams anymore. They did the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 games,
Right.
but yeah, no, it's you know, I can't see anybody not voting for Jayden Daniels. You know, there'll be somebody in Denver, you know, a journalist in Vegas or journalist in Denver that's going to give their token vote. But it's Jayden Daniels with a runaway on this. It doesn't mean that these other guys won't end up being fantastic players. You know, maybe Jayden Daniels has a fantastic career, but not a great career. And one of these guys goes on and becomes a Hall of Famer. I don't know, but this year by itself, it's no doubt Jayden Daniels he already has this wrapped up.
Yeah, I think he's because I haven't paid a ton of attention to it. So if I misspeak on this, anyone listening, I apologize. But everywhere they give Rookie of the Week, Pepsi Rookie of the Week, which is a fan voting award, by the way. And I
Right.
think Jayton has won it. He's tied the record for most in a season. And if he gets it again, he will break the record. I think he's got like 9 or 10 or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
Um, and probably after today's game, he'll probably win it again
Yeah.
and break the record. Um, but I don't care about Rookie of the Week awards as much as I care about wins and losses, right?
And
Very
his growth
binary in this
and
one.
his growth and development,
And the
right?
growth and development.
Um,
All that
he's
other stuff, yeah,
yeah. I mean,
it's good. It's good,
this is great.
but
This
that's
is
not
great
what.
experience that he's doing. I think I think you talked about last week how after we won the Titans game, that was a growing game. What happened in the fourth quarter here, I think, is even more so of that, right? Because just there was problem after problem after problem. You know, whether it was a turnover, whether it was a fumble, whether it was Jaden's fault for a bad pass, some penalties that were there. There was a lot of adversity for Washington to overcome, and you know, if I hadn't seen it this year, I would have said, basing it off of past years, there would have been no way that we would have overcome this much adversity that was in this game. Yet they did.
Yeah, yeah. The 5 turnovers, which was three three fumbles, 2 by Brian Robinson and 1 Diamond Brown. You know, it's funny because on one of the fumbles by Brian Robinson, I think Jalen Carr just made a heck of a play. You got to
Right,
secure the ball going through the line at least, but that guy, they showed the replay and man, he beat I think Biotis or Cosme quickly. He recognized the play.
right,
They showed it during the broadcast. He recognized the
right,
play. He beat the blocker, made a play, and you got to give credit to that. But nonetheless, it was a fumble and it cost us. It created some points. The second one, I don't know what happened on that with B Rob. That was just bad. And then Dami Brown get the ball punched out.
right,
That was just bad. I don't remember one of Jayden's 2 interceptions. He had 2 interceptions. I don't remember one, but the one that was toward the end of the game, I think it was about 3 minutes to go in the game. I think it was like 3rd and 5. He's rolling out to his right, throwing off his back leg, throwing across the field, and throws it into what was essentially double coverage.
right,
And at that point, I thought the game was over. I'm not gonna lie.
right,
At the
right,
3-minute mark, he throws the interception. Philly's gonna just run the clock down, and we're not gonna have enough time. And again, the defense stepped up. The defense steps up, man, and it gets down to a crucial third and 5 for Philly. And to be quite honest, they made the right play.
right,
It was right before the 2-minute warning, and it was simply Devontae Smith dropped the ball. He had the first. If he catches the ball and gets tackled right then and there, it's a first down, and again, game over. So 2 opportunities that almost got us, and it ended up we get the ball back, and Jayden Daniels went to work. And I know people aren't going to want to talk about the interception and some of the things that he did there, because that was a bad play. That was a truly bad play by
Yes.
Jayden.
Yes.
And but by throwing the touchdown with 7 seconds to go to win the game, kind of overshadows that. And I don't think many people are going to ask him. They're going to talk about it. The beat reporters probably certainly aren't going to want to talk. They're going to want to talk about the incredible comeback win. And I get it. And that's another reason why I'm trying to keep this a little bit, talking about the positive of what this game represented for us. That was a bad play by Jayden. And
It definitely was.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, it's funny because after you and I watched it at the sports bar, I came home and I had recorded it on the TV. Now, I didn't have time to go watch the entire game, but I watched like the last roughly 5 minutes of the game. And you it's funny little things that you notice that you didn't see before. And one of the things, um it's not directly about this game. It's about how the game is played and the everybody's integral part in it. Um, and I'm going to talk about Dan Quinn for a second. And Dan Quinn isn't necessarily any different than any other head coach when it comes to this. Is that he celebrates for a fraction of a second, and I'm talking. I mean, it's not more than 2 seconds max, and immediately he's coaching. If you go back and if anybody has it recorded, watch the last touchdown. They score the touchdown. He jumps up, celebrates, and part of his celebration is to put his hands up in the air and hold up two. Immediately, he's going for it, right. He's already thinking about it. He's in coach mode all the time, and it's hard for us as fans to sit there and think about that. He's not worried about the results of that play. He's thinking about the next play, what's going right, what's going wrong, what are the refs doing? What is all these decisions being made? And it's just a kind of a you would think that he would jump up and down for 10 seconds because at that point you already went ahead, right? You should have won the game at that point, but he's like, we're not chancing it. Immediately 2 points. It's just like I said, it's just an observation there.
Yeah, well, it was good. I mean, again, man, the emotion of the game. He's been in these high-low situations before, and to your point, you always have to be in coach mode, right? And some people will tell you that's what they get paid for when it's come time to make those
100%.
hard decisions, right? So, but yeah, again, man, call it growth, call it big boy football. I will be the first to tell you, if it wasn't for Jayden's play today, we do not win this game. But the resilience of this team, which is some things that we've not seen in years past, because again, I said it once and I'll say it again. Years past, we lose this game. Even in a valiant effort to make the comeback, we lose that game, whether it's clock management, whether we just run out of time. We didn't have an extra timeout that we needed, that we could have stopped the clock and gotten another playoff. Jayden gets sacked, or Crowder drops the ball, or he catches it, but his foot hits the back. There's just something that causes us to lose that game. We come up short. And this year, there's been moment after moment, where it was in our favor as opposed to going against us. And man, it's just an indication of things are different. Things are different, man. And you hear the players talk about, you hear the post-game interviews, they just talk about how different this was. Things are in DC. They love being there. They love playing for Dan Quinn. They just love the culture and everything that has been changed and built in Dan Quinn's first year in DC, man. And I am, as a long suffering fan of this team, is good to come out, man. I mean, think about it, Ken. We've had 10 of these victory Sunday, victory Monday type deal.
Right.
10 of them.
Right.
We have 10 of them, man. I mean, for somebody else, they're like, big deal. Man, we've had 10. I think this is the first time since 1991 that this team has been 10-5 after 15 weeks.
Right.
That was the year we won the Super Bowl. I'm not going to tell you how old I was, but I remember the Super Bowl in 1991. And I would never in a million years would think that in 1991 that it would be the year 2025, 2024, 2025 before I see a 10-win season again. Because I remember in 1991 when they made moves and they made moves in the future,
Yeah.
they would show the year 2000, the year
Yeah.
2015. You couldn't imagine 2015 in 1991.
You thought you were going to be flying your hover car to the game.
Exactly. We were in spaceships. So
Yeah.
the future was way up. You wouldn't, I mean, there's no way you could have convinced me that my team would take that long to win 10 games again, man. And
Right.
so
Right.
so yeah, I'm not, this is one of those games, man, and one of these years that we just got to appreciate it for what it is. And hopefully that this is just a sign of things to come, brother.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more in the off season, but this is a destination that players are going to want to play, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're drafted, if you're a wide receiver drafted, you're like, "Psh, I got Jayden Daniels thrown to me. Oh hell yeah! Thank you for drafting me. Seventh round, first round, doesn't matter. Washington's going to be a destination that is not. Okay, I'll go play. They're paying me the most money. I'll go play there. And not that
Well, we
Washington needs,
already know.
yeah, and not that Washington doesn't have to, shell out the money. People aren't going to go play for nothing to come to Washington. But you got their attention before you
We have
even
a
talk
seat at the
money.
table. We have a
Well,
seat at the table with NFL
correct.
agents now, right? Whereas before, I guarantee you, your top free agents, your top 5 free agents would probably say these are the agent would probably tell them, hey, these are the teams that are looking at us, and you can sit down and you probably consider what are our opportunities when we go here, who's the coach, what kind of scheme they run, X, Y, Z. You see Washington's name on that in years past, you probably go, man, I'm not going to Washington. You can take them off the table.
Right.
If nothing else, maybe they use Washington to drive up the price in negotiation with another team, but they're never coming to Washington. We know already this season at the trade deadline, it was reported that free agents were telling their agents, I want to go to Washington. You need to talk to Washington.
Right.
So next offseason, even if they don't come, to your point, we get a seat at the table.
Right.
We get to give a pitch. We get to tell them and show them why you need to come consider us, come play with us. And boy, if they can make the jump next off season with some moves and draft the way they did this season,
Well,
man,
if they can do, not necessarily record wise, but talent wise, if we can do 50% of what we did this past year, watch out.
and keep
Right.
in mind, we have to know,
We won't be talking. Yeah, we won't be talking about being a wild card. We'll be talking about winning the NFC East and winning the division.
right
That will be the conversation.
now we have
Ifs and buts. You got to put it into practice and put it into play um and play the games. But it's those kinds of conversations that we haven't had those kinds of conversations in literally decades.
decades. But at this point, though, the coaching staff seems to be a coaching staff that is not going to let these guys just rest on what they did last year, right? The floor has
100%.
been raised. It doesn't matter how many games we won last year. This is the new year. It's a new team. And we as fans basically have to remind ourselves we're going to have a second place schedule, right?
Yep.
You're not going to be playing teams at the bottom of the divisions the previous year. So your the talent and the teams that you're going to play next year would be a lot more better, a lot more strong. You're going to be playing the likes of the Philadelphia Eagles several times next season. So the
Right.
schedule would be harder, but that's a discussion for another time. But at this point, man, we should celebrate this victory. It is what it is. We got 10 wins, man. And I remember, people telling us we get 10 wins. They thought we was crazy. And let's be honest, I don't know that we fully believed it, but 10 wins, it's finally here, man.
Well, look, I don't know what the odds are or were in Vegas. It's not unthinkable for us to win the next 2 games, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That means 12 games. What was what was the odds in Vegas on Washington winning 12 games before the day before the season started? Man, I tell you what, you and I could have paid off our houses and probably retired just by putting a fairly small chunk of money
Yeah.
on the line, you know.
Yeah, we
Um,
could have, but we didn't. So
but you know what? There's always one. It seems like there's always one team that does this type of thing. It's just never Washington.
correct.
And new ownership, new GM, new coaches. They select the new quarterback and put things around him, and we have the success. So I'm looking forward
Um,
to the Falcons next week and work on coming away with a win there. Falcons are going to still be working hard. They're fighting hard to try to stay in the playoff race themselves. They started out hot at the beginning of the year, then kind of died off a little bit, and trying to keep things together. But we'll talk about that on the next podcast. You got anything else for us, Reg?
no, sir, man. It's a new day. Onward and upward.
And I appreciate everybody listening. Till next time,
Well, hang
peace
on.
out,
And
knuckleheads.
one last
Yep,
thing. So
yep,
yeah,
go ahead.
before we peace out, by the next time you guys hear from us, you will have had Christmas. So we're gonna be the first to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and hope all goes well. You and your family enjoy your time off. As here in America, you know, with James and his boys here in America, it's Christmas for us.
Yep.
I don't know much about the UK. So I don't want to be be insensitive to that. So I've never been, but we wish you guys as well, man. But until next time, though, peace out.
Stay off the naughty list. Peace out.